Freak Radio. This is Jafric Radio.
Becoming a new country is said to be free.
This is Jafric Radio. Radio.
But is said to be free. Beside corruption, beside starvation, walking like a millionaire. 'Cause you feel
This is Jafric Radio.
free. One thing you don't know, your country is being remote control. It is a Mickey Mouse freedom, yeah.
This is Jafric Radio.
Hello, viewers.
Hello.
Very good evening. This is Jafric Radio. You are number one on airwaves. We've come back here again with another exciting episode for this week. And the program is, as we all know, we have been coming to you every bi-week from the studios of Jafric Radio, online radio station based in Japan. Once you get to Japan, it's the only African station that you can listen to your news and all the other programs that entices you. We once again have come to host the program Africa Today.
This is Jafric Radio.
Africa Today is a political program that look into African progress and how we are doing with our politics. So the usual host is always Mr. Asiedu, and I am here today to sit in for him. He has not been able to make it due to one or two problems that's beyond his control. We are sorry for that. But as well, I will handle you, even though it has been an impromptu. I will take you through, and we have a lot of resource personnel around who will take us through the program. For today, the topic for today is, why is it that Africa cannot use their language to instruct the students, or why we don't have African language? When you look at Africa, we go to African countries, we don't have African language being used as a medium of instruction for our schools or in our schools. This is what we are going to look into. And I am going to...
This is Jafric Radio.
Host, and my name is Yahaya Seidu, sitting in for William Asiedu. It is interesting. The two names are very parallel. One has A and one has no A. So the pronunciation is Asiedu, the host, and Seidu, the acting or caretaker host for Mr. William Asiedu. So don't be confused with the name. Thank you very much. Without much ado, we will allow our sponsors to have a word from them before I introduce my panelists or my panel to you. Thank you very much.
I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I think I'm right.
This is Jafric Radio.
Fellow Kukudites, NPP Bamwa Japan, Afiaso, and Untimum Penninfo, under the leadership of Honorable Nana Alhaji Abdul Razak, Chairman, Honorable George Afro, Secretary, and Afri, Honorable Kofi Edubwahina, the one friend of Prof. Twinsa de Aframo said, Afi 2022 Ekuniwi, and Intia Busumi Busumi Shemu December Dieno, yet Dani Nikakra. Metra said, after COVID economy, the NPP needs some respite. Netra said, December Wedi, Strong Kokra, if we say, a bay edidie, onum, Yevia, Adjundina Manyuko, Nafiahunu, Diadayeni, and in the chairman, Honorable Nana Alhaji Abdul Razak, Niamanyukoni Penninfo Japan Twinsa de Aframo said, December 25th, 2023, Jeshemu, Ewo Soka Machubradanchi, Saitama, near end of year party. Jumedi, ya Twinsa de Aframo, Nintini Kudambit say, Her Excellency, Mrs. Genevieve Edna Apalu, Ghana Ambassador to Japan, Party Stewards, Ora Kwesi Chei Amwabin, Ora Peter Owan, Dr. Bernard Opon Kwesi, Ora Christian Osei Ayesu, Ora Newman, Ora Bio, and after Dr. Samuel Amponsan, and Wechi, ya Twinsa de Aframo, the Ghanaian Muslim community, Church of Pentecost, and other Christian communities in and it's all NPP Bawa Japan, and Abebia Ubetimi Abebieno, Yensu Quine, Brani and Kambum, Nianchi, Yavia, Yadun NPP Radio, Mawani NPP among your coining Penninfo Edisia, Namanyokufa de Entemenuso, Edimu, Kai, Sunday, December 25th, 2022, oh, Soka Machubaradanchi, Saitama, Kai, says 2024 elections, working together, winning together, growing together.
This is Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio.
Okay, here you go, Mr. Yaha.
Thank you very much for the wonderful work you are doing. Viewers, we are here again. As I said earlier on, my name is Yahaya, and I'm going to sit in for the regular host, Dr. Williams Asiedu. I have with me a very special guest whose name is Mr. Achille.
Exact. Yeah.
Thank you very much. The weather is very cold here in Chiba. I don't know your end there, how it is. But the way I see you, it looks like you are feeling very fine without any cold.
Yeah, it's cold in this side. I'm in Tokyo West, in Fuchu area. So yeah, it's quite cold this side. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That Fuchu is, yes, Western Tokyo. Fuchu Homachi. Oh, I see. Yeah. Thank you. Just as the topic, you heard the topic and you've also seen the topic. African, why is it that Africa have difficulties in using their own language as a medium of instruction in their schools? What can you tell us about that, Mr. Achille?
Thank you. First of all, Jafric Radio, once more for inviting me. It's always a honor to be part of the show, and given that the topics you usually choose are really relevant for our beautiful continent, the motherland. And today also it's the topic is quite interesting for Africa. So why are our textbooks not in our local languages? I think I have to say that one of the reason, the main reason, is because there are too many languages in Africa, within Africa. And that diversity makes it hard to really come up with textbooks, because Africans need to speak their languages. If I can take you an example of Gabon, my country, in Central Africa. Gabon has 52 languages, vernacular languages. Well, the national language, it's French. It's a former French colony. So the country has 52 languages. But I can tell you that majority of families in Gabon are mixed families, meaning that people are unable to speak local languages. As far as I'm concerned, I can speak properly my mother tongue because my father, my late father, and my mother, they belong to the same tribe. They speak the same language. That's why I can speak my language, which is not the case for the majority of Gabonese people. Just to take you that example, if I can broaden the statistic, before the show, I look at the statistic in Africa, and they indicate that 120 million of people in Africa, they speak French. 150 million, they speak English. And 200 million, they speak Arabic. You can see from the statistic that there is no Yoruba inside. You can see from the statistic there is no Lingala that is spoken in Congo, for example. You can see from the statistic that there is no Swahili that is spoken in countries like Tanzania, for example. So these are some of the obstacles we have in Africa that make it hard to really come up with textbooks in our local languages, because Africans first need to speak their languages. If they don't speak their languages, it's going to be difficult to really come up with textbooks. So this is what I can say globally. I mean, holistically, you know, I mean, has kind of the the obstacles.
Yeah, Mr. Achille, thank you very much for that insight. We really appreciate that. But what if you also look at this angle? UNDP, somewhere 2001, came out with the research which says the African being unable to use their own language to write their textbooks or to use as a medium of instructions in the school is basically a political issue. None of the political leaders is ready to apply such rule or norms and regulations to come out with a policy proposal. If you look at all their policy proposals, none of them just towards trying to make sure the African language is used as medium of instruction in our schools, and therefore there is no way they think around that angle. That is one of the main reasons why we are not, we haven't been able to do that. Do you share their view? Because this is a research
I think
CIFA funding.
partly, yeah. I think the UNDP is partly right. But my concern and my point, the argument I want to make is, well, African people, they shouldn't wait, for international organizations, to kind of give guidance or direction. I agree that there is lack of political will because when I've mentioned in the introductory part that, in African are unable to speak languages, but in fact, the environment is not conducive. And if the environment is not conducive, is because the political authority, the government, the state in Africa, they don't make things work. As a result, the situation will go on this way. So I think this has to come from at the highest level in a country. So the decision has to be a political one, because having textbooks, it means that we have to change the educational paradigm, because we know most of the textbooks we use in Africa have been built by the West. And if we start using ours, there's going to be kind of clash. But of course, we have to expect that, because it's like decolonization. It's only by force that we can achieve. So this is, we don't have to negotiate about that. So if we want to keep our local languages, there is no, it's not bilateral. We don't have to sit with Western powers, to say that, well, this is what we think about education, about our languages. So it's do or die. We have to get our languages straight, because in some part of Africa, there is one professor in my in my country who made research, and some languages died already, and some of the other languages are dying because people do not speak those languages. So if we really want to keep languages, alive, it's important for us to have textbooks to teach those languages, to find a common language, in Africa. So I think that this has to come at the highest level. So that's my point.
Well,
Okay.
thank
can I
you
come
very
in?
much for your insight.
Okay.
Mr. Pop,
Yes, sir.
do you have something to say
Yeah.
in regard to what he has put across?
In some parts, I agree with Ashley, but in some parts, I don't. Okay. During his introduction, he said we have 140 million French-speaking countries in Africa, and 150 million English-speaking countries, and 200 million Arabic-speaking countries. Okay, it's a very huge number, I think. And before this,
Mr. Pop, Mr. Pop, hold on. Before you continue, let me make some few corrections before we continue.
okay,
He said 120 million speakers, not countries.
oh,
Thank
People
you.
who speak
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
and then it's people. 200 million people who speak Arabic.
Yeah,
150 million who speaks
English.
and then 120 million who speaks French.
120,
which
not
are
140.
all- No. Okay.
Okay,
Wait, hold on.
I thought he said 140.
Yeah, it's 120. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's
Okay, go on.
let me repeat. I said 120 million speak French, 200 million speak Arabic, and 150 million speak English.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, and what I want to say here is very simple. In Africa, we had many languages. We know we have many languages because there's a lot of dialects. Yeah. But I remember, I've forgotten the year, but in history, our leaders try to come up with an idea that East and West, North and South and Central Africa, we should pick one language, common language. Let's say maybe Lingala or Swahili or Ashanti or Hausa, or let's say name it, any language in Africa, and make that language a national language for Africa. Why should we use English or French or Arabic as a national language? But here, when they came up with this idea, it was still during the colonial rule. So I think in Belgium or Benin, somewhere, they denied this proposal. I think Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was the leader of this organization and said even Africa should use one money, currency. They deny us. But yet still, if you go to Europe, they all use one currency now as the European Union, and even now they are trying to use, let's say, English or French as a national language for Europe, whereby some people are trying not to agree. So now, my problem is, why still Africans, we are not coming together and say, enough is enough. Let what the goats have eaten, let it go. And let's try and protect what we have now. We can use Hausa as a national language, Swahili as a national language, or maybe some Nigerian language as a national language. And then we will make these textbooks in these languages, try and educate all our continents, countries in our continent, so that we can, become one. Because if your country can develop, I think language is very important. Just look at in Japan here. Look at in China. They use their own language to teach the children from infancy until university. And then English and French or whatever language, Portugal or whatever, you can go and learn as a second language.
Okay, as a second language, let's use our language as a first language. Let's try and use our language as a first language, and then use the foreign language or the European language as a second language. Mr. Pop, thank you very much. And you also said whatever the goat has eaten, we should allow that one to go, and then we move on and protect the rest. I like that. Thank you so much. Mr. Chile, when you come to, yes, you mentioned that Uganda, you have about 52 languages or 62
Gabon.
Languages. Gabon. The same thing, in Ghana, we have 49 languages. But then, we have the northern part, the central part, and then the eastern part, which has languages that fuse together. They at least understand each other a bit. So if the policy makers and the linguistics, they team up and they want to do that, I think it will help. Because when you go to a country like Cameroon, they use French and English. Both languages are foreign language, but they are able to coexist, and then they are able to administer everything well. You understand? The same way they can use
Yes.
the majority Cameroon language, and then the second one that people understand easily and a lot, or create a buffer language, a language that exists between the the larger this thing, the large tribe. They could create a language that exists between there, and then they use that one as a medium of instruction so that the children understand it better. Because imagine when a child is born, the child listens to his or her mother's language, her mother's tongue throughout. So if you instruct the child in that language, with that language, he understands better. And in 2014, the professor, the former Ghana Minister of Education, proposed this. And I have heard her on different platforms outside Ghana propagating that. And it makes a lot of sense. Because when a child is born, at least the basic education, that is the area that develops a child a lot. So the basic side, we could adopt our local language and instruct them with it so they will understand. If you say 1 minus 1, doesn't understand. But if you say the child understands it better than to go and remember what minus means or what plus means before he comes back to factor it and understand it. But if you use your local language, the mother language, the child will have born, will have saved time and understand the thing better. Japan is doing better. Why? Because they're using their own language and then they borrow parts and create buffer language. You understand? Because if you say milk tea, Japanese will never use their own language as a milk tea. They would rather prefer using the foreign one, which all of them understand. If you pronounce an English word, the correct part, they will tell you that is not Japanese. You have to pronounce it in Japanese way. You understand? Like if you say giant, Japanese will want you to say gianto. And that is what he will tell you, that is the Japanese. This is a buffer language, a language that it doesn't add or subtract anything from the original language, but it makes the child understand better. So this is the situation. So don't you think we are doing ourselves harm? Because not doing that, our children end up, they get older before they understand certain things, which they could have understand it at the basic level. Mr. Achille.
Thank you. I think we all agree that it's important to have our languages, available through textbooks. I want to come back on Nana Pop's reaction to English and to the urgency to move away, from Western languages. I think what we need as Africans, this idea was already brought by Africans, people like Kwame Nkrumah, or the people who were there after the independence days. But the problem with Africans is there is no construction. What I mean is this kind of decisions or initiatives cannot be taken overnight. It has to be progressive. And we cannot just decide all of a sudden, okay, we have to abandon English, French, Arabic. I think we have to think long term. Right now, we are talking about in Africa the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, because African people realize that we don't have to rush on certain decisions. I think if we have to build a common language before thinking Africa we have to think regional blocks. We have to think our respective countries. If in Gabon, for example, we struggle to find a common language out of the 52, don't you just think that the project is not achievable?
No.
Okay, in Ghana, okay. Let me develop. Nana Pop. My point, my argument is, if you took the example of Europe, okay, in the European Commission, the working languages, you have English, you have French, you have German. In
And
Africa,
Portuguese.
if we want one main language, but it's important first we look at the regional blocks. We have to start from somewhere. We have to say, okay, in Gabon, we speak a language called Fang, which is also spoken in Cameroon, which is also spoken in Equatorial Guinea. So these three countries in Central Africa first have to get along to speak that language. You in Ghana, you speak Ashanti, probably with other languages. So you first have to agree that Ashanti is the official language. Same like the people in Congo, same like the people in Tanzania. If we don't find, a common language within the regional blocks, like in the southern part, South Africa shared some of the languages with countries like Zimbabwe and Namibia or Swaziland. Maybe if it's Zulu, then Zulu will be the language of Southern Africa. Then Southern Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, and the North Africa can come up with one language, which will be 4 or 5 main languages in Africa. Now we can say in Africa, these are the main languages like the European did. That's how it happened, even here in Asia. If you look at the kanji, the Japanese language, there is kanji. Kanji is also spoken in China. And also in Korea, they can get along. This is how it happened. So Africans can just decide overnight that, well, we are living English, we are living French. But we have to propose something, what can be a long-term plan or medium term to say maybe in 10 years, we have to come up with this main language of this block, of this West Africa, this Central Africa. This is how it happens. We can just say, okay, we are living English, and without taking into consideration, the difficulties, the obstacles that I've listed earlier on. Some of the obstacles are like, in countries like Gabon, 80% of the population speak French. So it's important to say, well, in the next 10 years, we're going to teach the main language in our school and build a textbook so that 10 years after, when a Ghanaian, a Gabonese, a Cameroonian, a Moroccan, when they meet, they say, well, each of us can speak his main language. So let's form now a continental and African educational, block perspective where we can integrate, the 4 main languages in Africa. This is how it happens. So I think it's a medium or long-term plan. This is how I see Africa. And the language issue, language is one of the issue which is on the table of African Union or African Commission. They think about it. But now the political will is lacking. So that's my point, that I agree with you. I think we share the same content, that it's important to have textbooks in our local language, but how to do that? What is the process? That the thing. And African, they never think long term. They want things now. It can't work like that. You know, Japan or China, when you look at those civilizations, we're talking about the 18th, the 19th century. They built their country. It's a process. So Africans should think maybe in the next 50 years, it's cannot be done tomorrow or after tomorrow. It's
Of
a
course.
process. But you have to change this in our mind. That's why there is a South African professor called Sabelo Ndlovu, is working on decolonizing our minds, our education. He's a specialist of a science called epistemology. So he's working on this kind of, this kind of areas, trying to decolonize, because we got decolonized in the 1960s or the case of Ghana, I think earlier on, 1957. But it's time also to decolonize education. And I think language is one of the priorities. So it's a process. So it's important to convince African leaders. So yeah, that's the point I want to make.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Popson, he's saying we should think a lot and put effort to be able to achieve that. It wouldn't take a day. But in as much as I agree with him, I also have it with a view that Africa, the lowest or the shortest African countries who attained independence less than 50 years ago is somewhere Namibia and a few others. The rest is 50 plus, which is older than me. And if we have not been able to think around that block or that angle, then it is a bit of failure to us. Mr. Pop, what do you say about groupings or creating a block language whereby you put some of the languages together and then you are able to get a language that fits into the society where we can use it as medium of instruction and both as medium of instruction and then business?
Thank you, Mr. Yaya. Dr. Ashley, for that one, I don't buy. The reason is, let's take it very simple. Before these white people came to Africa, we were using our own language. And they came and enforced their language, French, Portuguese. If you go to Angola, they speak Portuguese, Arabic, on us. They see to it that you don't use your language, you use their language. And this has been since 17-something, hundreds of years. So now they have got that foundation. But yet still, Nanayao, I think that we, Africans, we can overcome this if we really come together and say, let's use, let's say Swahili. They enforce us, we had our own language those times. They enforce us to speak English in the Western side and maybe some other countries, and French. And yet still now, our language is French or English. They enforce us. So we have to enforce that we have to use Swahili as it's one language, the whole Africa. And we will study, learn, and we can use it. I came to Japan only 30 years ago. I didn't speak any Japanese word. Okay? But after 30 years, now I can read and write. I can go around and do business in Japanese. Ghana is 68 years next year. How old is Gabon? How old is Nigeria? How old is South Africa? How old is Egypt? How old is Ethiopia? How old is Cameroon? If we have determination and say enough is enough. I know this French people, British people, American people, whatever people, they don't want us to unite. Hey, language is a key of success. Let me tell you something. You see this apparel, Gucci, whatever. They all do the manufacturing in China, from Italy, from French, from Portugal, whatever. But you know what the Chinese do? They bring everything in their language, but they say our machines is in Chinese. You have to translate everything in Chinese if you want to do business with us. So
Thank
now,
you,
you
Mr.
see how China is.
Paul.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want us to listen to our sponsors, and after, when we come back, Mr. Chile, I'll put it to you, or I'll ask you.
Mr. Chile
what
want to say
will
something.
be your- Okay, let me give you
Ashley.
2 minutes to do that, so that we go to the sponsors. Mr. Chile.
Thank you. Before the break, I just want to react quickly to Nana Yo Pop's opinion. The thing is, what Nana Yo Pop need to understand is, I agree on one point that, well, before the 1960s, we had our own languages, but unlike Japan never got colonized compared to Africa. So we had that colonial ties between UK, Africa, France, Africa. Yeah, so it's really difficult to undo that. That's one thing. The second thing is, speaking a language. You say that you've been here for the last 13 years. It took you some time to get adapted. So it takes a generation, maybe 20, 30 years to really change things. It cannot be done suddenly. While I agree with you, my problem with you is, in terms of roadmap, you don't suggest a clear roadmap, because mine is like, well, if African can get along to say that, well, we are in 2022, by 2030, maybe in 8 years, we can start. We need maybe 500 million African to speak the languages, and in 10 years' time, we can have the textbooks available, and now we can say to the West that, okay, thank you, but we no longer need Western textbooks. We can now think about how to reshape our education. So I think it's the problem here is the process, So the process has to be really, thought. Yeah. Thank you.
I agree with you.
Okay.
That one, I agree with
Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate whatever you are doing for Jafric Radio. But before we continue, let's have a word from our sponsors. Then, when we come back, we swim deep into and see what we can come out with. Thank you very much.
Your online radio, the new online radio that makes you happy.
Kwa majina naitwa John Bahati Bisimwa. Natokea Congo, Republic of Congo. Kwa sasa naishi Japan, ndani ya Tokyo. Munasikiliza Jafric Radio Online, number 1 in Japan. Hakuna matata. Tuko fresh.
This is Jafric Radio.
Mi chiamo Mano e tu stai ascoltando Jafric Radio. Afric out. Jafric Le
สวัสดี
Chic.
ค่ะชื่อแอมนะคะมาจากประเทศไทยค่ะตอนนี้กำลังเป็นนักแสดงอยู่ที่ประเทศญี่ปุ่นนะคะตอนนี้คุณกำลังฟังอยู่ในคลื่นวิทยุ Jafric Radio
Oi, aqui é a Paula e você está assistindo Jafric Radio.
You are listening to Jafric Online Radio live from Japan.
Yeah! Jafric Radio.
You are listening and watching Jafric Radio. Check it out, it's awesome.
Like, subscribe, share all our social media handles. Arigato. Bye bye. Share. Jafric Radio is affiliated with Adum FM.
Chiankoma Nana Yo Pop, Jafric Radio.
Good morning, and come out the entire crew. Nana Yo Pop and the entire crew. Jafric Radio Japan. Good morning. We love you. Congratulations. Jafric Radio.
Yeah, Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio.
Yeah, we are back.
Hello, viewers. Thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate everything you are doing. But please, don't just watch us. Please subscribe. If you're on Facebook, subscribe to our channel, Jafric Radio. And if you are on YouTube, too, we're also there. Subscribe to Jafric Radio. If you search for Jafric Radio, you will see us and subscribe. Just like the page. And whenever we come live, you have the feeds, and then you have a lot to enjoy, educate, and entertain yourself. Thank you very much. We have a lot of programs ranging from social, political, religious, and then also home, how your home will be sweet. So please subscribe to our channels, and then we can do business together, enjoy together, and then learn and do everything together. Thank you very much. Topic for today discussion is why is our textbooks, African textbooks, not in African language, or our medium of the African medium of instruction is not in their language, but in foreign or European language. That is what we are dealing with. And I have with me Mr. Achille, who is a resource person helping us. And I also have Nanaya Pop at the other side, who is also helping us discuss this very important topic. And
this is Jafric Radio.
Earlier on, the host for this program, Dr. William Asiedu, is off today, and I am sitting in for him. And my name is Yahya Seidu, and I have always told you, don't miss the name. My name is Seidu, and doctor's name is Asiedu, so there is A in front of that. Thank you. Before we went to a break, Mr. Chile, you had said a lot about the languages, and then because we have multi-culture and multilingual in our countries, if we find it difficult to be able to do. Then you also mentioned that it takes long time, and citing Pop's period of stay or living in Japan and being able to speak the language means confirm your point that it takes long time for language to be developed, and for that matter, it will take. But as I said earlier on, the African country who is below 50 years, I think, if though I stand to be corrected, who is below 50 years of before after independence is Namibia, that I know. There are other fews. There are a few others too, sorry. But the rest, they've all passed or they are within 50 years. So if for 50 years we could not think around that corner, just as the report that I read from UNDP, it also said they don't have the political will to do it. It's all about political will. For instance, if you go to South Africa, they are developing Mandarin language or Mandarin. I don't know. Correct me with the pronunciation. You understand? And it is doing better.
Yeah.
Because of the people and what the leaders and what the teachers feel about it. In Ghana, it was proposed in 2013, 2014, it was proposed. And you saw teachers themselves criticizing it. Some asking questions like, how would you call an atom? You can just call it an atom. In Ghanaian language, that would best fit. And the children will understand it. We've seen so many countries who have done that, and then they are progressing. And they've progressed, not that they are progressing, they've progressed. If you go to countries like India, they've adopted their own language. When they adopt their own language, now they are doing the best. When you take American scientists, when it comes to technology, they are all Indians. Most of them. There is a research that I have proved about 60-70% are Indians. They buy them. And recently there was a lady who came out with a product from UAE, young girl. You could see that the Americans were trying to buy, but she insisted no. You see, so what I'm trying to draw or try to add to what we are saying here is that I need to be focused. The policy makers need to think. They haven't had that thought. All they know is for European, they are wise, they are good, they have that. But it's not like that. We can use their language for business. But look at the sad aspect that hurt me so much that I praise our CEO, the producer of this program, and then the host for choosing this topic is that Ghanaian, Nigerian, name them. When you are going to school in the UK, if you're a nurse, whatever you are, whatever profession
This is Jafric Radio.
You need to write English language proficiency tests. After studying all the English, so what is the big deal here? If we use our language to study, then we go and write that. Wouldn't it be better that way than wasting 20 years to learn the English language, receive our instructions through that, and then when we want to go and study there or work there, they will still test us. What is the value? Meanwhile, they know that is our first language. What they test that? What they are trying to tell us is the language belongs to them. So we need to focus on our own, that belongs to us, and make it beautiful for people to like it, and for the students. And because when people stay with the language for a long time, they begin to appreciate it. That is why Mr. Pop appreciates Japanese language, because he has stayed long. Thank you. Mr. Achille, what can you tell us about that? When we are going, is it so much necessary? How necessary it is that we cannot stop, or how so bad is it that we cannot start it in the just now and then think ahead than just waiting for several years? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. You see, policies in general, people need to sit and strategize, because now I think this is a big issue that we are talking about. You see, the reason why in UK, the example you took, when you go to UK, even if you come from an English-speaking country, and there is a reason why they want people to sit for an examination. They need to make sure that if you want to live in this country, especially studying, your understanding has to be exact. I mean, it has to be kind of you have to meet the standard. In Africa, I agree. We all agree that it's urgent. It's important for us to really get, I mean, kind of reappropriate, I mean, our languages. But we need to sit and plan about it. How do we go about it? How do we strategize? How do we make it work? Because if we don't think properly, I mean, the project will fail. Like many projects fail in Africa. That's the reality. Because you said something important about some teachers being reluctant. But this kind of project, there has to first be teachers, training of teachers. People are not trained. What interest are they going to find? You can't just say, I mean, tomorrow, you can't ask somebody who has been trained to be a physical teacher, or I don't know, biology teacher, or even if he can speak fluently Ashanti, you cannot ask the person to teach a vernacular language. It's a process. I mean, they have to plan for that. I mean, teaching how to write, the pronunciation. That's what I said. Let's be realistic, dear Africans. I think people really need to sit to say, well, what do we need? What are the needs? Because a language, you see, when you a language like French, like English, I mean, those languages, they have specific number of words. There is a way to pronounce them. There is a way to write. I mean, there is grammar, there is vocabulary. So you don't just improvise. That's why I think that even in Africa, if we want to do things properly, we have to think how to do that. I'm sure that you guys, you speak your languages. Before the show, I mean, started, which is very nice. I really appreciate that. I remember one show I came to the studio and Nana Yopop asked me some words in my mother tongue, which I said properly. I mean, because I can speak my language. But there is no guarantee that I can write like I speak. I cannot guarantee that. And I'm sure also if they give you a text, somebody who is in Accra or other part of Ghana, I mean, a traditional chief who knows, I mean, a guardian who knows the language of Ashanti, formal, I mean, like the, how to say, proper Ashanti. I'm sure that maybe you guys, you cannot really, I mean, compete with that person. So that's why I say that, are we talking about Ashanti of the street, Ashanti of textbooks, or Ashanti for, I mean, it's like broken English, it's like proper English. I mean, they are levels. And if we think changing the mindset, changing how we do things in Africa, I think we have to think big. And thinking big requires a reflection. So, again, taking this into consideration, I think it's not something that you can just decide, okay, a Ministry of Education saying that, well, I think tomorrow or maybe next month, we're going to start a new language that's going to replace English. No.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it will never work like that.
Thank you very much. It wouldn't be a day
or two.
It wouldn't be a day thing. We understand that. But I think we are far behind time, and I want to give Mr. Pop the chance to also say one or two that, so that when you say one or two, then I'll give him about 2 minutes, and then Mr. Gildes, you also take 1 minute to say your final, you conclude with, and then we wrap up, because time is not with us. Thank you. So, Mr. Pop.
Yes, sir.
What is your reaction? What are you going to add to what has been said so far?
Yeah, what Mr. Ashley is saying, I really understand. But if we stay still and, don't move and say Europe will not accept, French will not accept, we'll be in the same soup. This is where we can apply something that we call revolution. We have to take a step or a move first before things will change. It has been over 100 years, and I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is our future. Me, myself, I speak my language, but I cannot read. The other day, we went to a meeting, church meeting, and I took the Bible, and I wanted to read Tree, Ashanti. I couldn't read. So, as Dr. Ashley was saying, we have to start from educating. With that one day we know we'll do it. What I'm trying to say is, do you think that we Africans have to stop using English, French, Portuguese, and whatever language which is not our language on our motherland? I think because of time, we have to do part 2.
Yes.
Yes.
We will have to progress in deep much and deep into the topic properly, because personally, I would want to say so much, but I'm hosting the program, so I don't want to go to that tangent. But Mr. Chile, Prof is saying we need to do a lot to be able to not to forget it. But you see, the example that he said, meanwhile, when he was a child, he could read. It's because he's not been reading, because the thing was nipped in the bud completely.
No, I've never been taught.
So
everything was in English.
So what I want to say is, in Ghana, well, I will say it at my closing comment. So, Mr. Chile, what would you add? Because I'm giving you 1.5 minutes to wrap up.
Thank you first of all for this opportunity once more, Jafric Radio. I really appreciate the effort and the quality of topics that you initiate. I share your concerns because we need an ideal Africa. We need an Africa that really understands, I mean, its concerns and the priority and how to move forward. And Nana Yopop, I share your linguistic concern. You said something that's important, because I can tell you that I speak better English and French than my own vernacular language, which is Fang, which the majority of people speak in Gabon.
It's
so
bad.
My French and my English are even better, which is how to say, which is unfortunate. It shouldn't be the case, because it's like saying a Japanese speaking better English than Japanese. It doesn't make sense, you know. So I think that really we need to change that, but we also have to propose solutions. That's why I really appreciate this kind of topic, because if we talk about it regularly, maybe our authorities in Africa that will understand that, well, our youth, although they are not in the country, but they think about it. They think about speaking our own languages. So I really appreciate the idea of bringing this on the table, and I hope that future topics will be similar to the one we spoke about today. So thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It has been an exciting show, and we are promising viewers, and probably viewers, that we come back with another or part 2 of this program. Our topic has been, why are our textbooks not in our local language, African way? Why is it so? And we had Mr. Achille Gildas as a guest and a resource person who helped us to discuss this topic. And among other things that he said is, he agreed that we haven't done a lot to use our language, which is bad, and we need to do proper introspection and then see what we can do to help and progress so that Africa can progress. Nana Yopop has also said, yes, indeed, it is very painful that he himself, at a point, he could read, when he was a child, he could read local language, that is Ghanaian language, but recently he tried in the public place, which he nearly smeared himself with mud, which is quite unfortunate. And all that tells you that we are not doing the continent any good. Planning, if it's actually saying planning is a key. Planning is a key, and then for 50 years we have been able to think towards that. I think we haven't been doing ourselves any good. If you consider many countries who have progressed or who are progressing now, many of them have switched their language, the foreign language, and adopted their own languages, and their children are doing better. Their students are doing better, and Ghana, Africa, not exception. We can do better if our policy makers begin to think that line. We wouldn't have children failing that much in our final exams like we've been hearing. So, US, this is where we draw the curtain.
Oh, I have Mr. MC.
Yes, sir.
We have some comments that I think it would be good if we can read one or two.
Oh, yes.
Can I? May I?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Wow, look at this program we are doing. Like, for example, Ashley, Yahaya, and me, myself, we are speaking in Swahili, or we are speaking Lingala, or Hausa. It's so beautiful. Now we are here speaking English, which is not our language. Very bad. Wallahi. We have Mr. Cornelius Apia. He says he's attacking Mr. Ashley. He says, Mr. Ashley, with all due respect, all that you are saying is excuse. We have to move forward. That is what Mr. Cornelius is saying. And then Mr. Peter says, the political will of our leaders.
The
political will of our leaders is also a fact. Could you take a look at the ECOWAS currency? It's taken more than 20 years since the process began. So we will continue this, as my boss said, part 2 next time. What do you say, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Nana Yaw Pop. And viewers, excuse me if you heard Mr. Achille mentioning Nana Yaw Pop. It is Nana Yaw Pop. He's trying to say it is not Swahili language or is an English word, but Nana Yaw Pop that he was trying to say it. He said the full name as it is. So we will come back again to you with another exciting episode of this particular topic. I have been your host for today, or sit-in host for Mr. soon-to-be Dr. Williams Asiedu. We thank you so much for being with us, having time for us. And as I said earlier on, please, if you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe to our channel. That is Jafric Radio.
This is Jafric Radio.
Yes. And you have a lot to learn, a lot to enjoy, and a lot to have fun. Beautiful programs are there that you can enjoy all the time. So, viewers, this is where we come to the end of the program. My name is
This is Jafric Radio.
Caretaker, host for Williams Asiedu. We wish you well. We hope to meet you again bi-weekly from today. Thank you so much for your time. We have you.
Oh, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao a tutti raga, it's Alfred here from Tokyo. You're listening to Jafric Radio. Ciao ragazzi, it's Alfred here from listening to Jafric Radio.
This is Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio. This is Jafric Radio.
モデルや役者のマネジメントをする会社を経営しています。What package are you walking in? More happy, happy face. そしてですね、日本におけるアフリカ人たちのためのオンラインストリーミングチャンネル、Jafric Radio をやっています。エニング・サムエルことナナヤポップです。出身はガーナです。国籍は日本です。
This is Jafric Radio.
みんな個人個人で言えると思うんだけれども、でも一つのプラットフォームとなると力がまた違うんですよ。日本からアフリカ人が設立したオンラインラジオ。Hello everybody! 皆さんこんにちは、こんばんは。我々のアフリカ人。
This is Jafric Radio.
いろんな人がさ、いい暮らししてる見て、俺も早くその人になりたい。でもどういう道歩んでるかわからない。
So when it comes to Japan, Japan is a place that not only to make money, to learn from Japanese.
Okay.
We can learn a lot and we can use them also back home.
で、簡単な道を通ろうとする。ね。変なことをしようとするとか、やっちゃいけないから、やっぱり先輩がこういう、私は今こうなんだけども、ここまでやってきたから、読んできたから今こうなるんですよと教えてあげなきゃいけない。それすっごい大事だと思う。
Knowledge without sharing is meaningless.
This is Jafric Radio.
I'm talking today from my life experience. It's from my heart.
こうじゃなきゃダメとか、こうじゃないと自分に価値がないとか、そういう考えをしたくないから、
番組を聞いてくれてる人が悩んでいることがあるかもしれません。あ、我々も頑張ってるんだ、もっと頑張ろうなっていうことになるんですね。この番組を通して聞けばI can help. 私の悩みもその人がもし They can help. スタジオにいないんですけど、Give and take な考えが僕はあります。
ね。
これ金かかってる。いやほら、聞いてくれる人がいるということだけ。放送ポーンって行くじゃん。でまたメッセージ来るでしょ。それがさ嬉しいんですよ。みんなこうやって聞いてくれてるんだ、応援してくれてるんだ。もう大変だよ。でも楽しい。
My name is Mari Nihei from the Philippines. You are watching Jafric Radio.
This is Jafric Radio.